In this video, I will be giving you my top 15 strikers in the UFC out of all fighters and weight class. I will break down and discuss the top 15 strikers in the UFC. This will only be about the stand-up game, and this will be graded off a tier list. This tier list will be broken up into 4 categories. The higher category you are in, the better overall striker you are. The rankings is going to be based off of knockouts, depth to the striking, which means how much is offensive, just countering, does he throw wild punches or kicks, and the overall performance of the striking. Then it will go to defense abilities, striking adaptations, and power. We will start at number 15 and end off at number 1. I do want to mention first, all of these fighters are amazing strikers. They are all top level UFC fighters. This just purely comes down to who has the best striking in the UFC pound for pound right now. Now, let's get into it. The top 15 strikers in the UFC. At number 15, I know this is going to surprise a lot of people, but I have Dustin Poirier at number 15. Dustin Poirier, great striker. The reason why he's at number 15 and not higher, simply, in my opinion, is the defense, right? Dustin Poirier has great knockout wins over Conor McGregor, Justin Gaethje, Benoit Saint Denis now, Eddie Alvarez. He has great wins. He is a warrior, right? He stands in the pocket, he gets hit, he takes one to give one. And I feel like if Dustin Poirier had better defense, he was able to defend more strikes. If he could get out of fights more, right, with less damage, I think he would be a much better striker. But it's the defense, in my opinion, that kind of hurts Dustin Poirier. He takes one to give one. Dustin Poirier lands 5.30 significant strikes a minute and absorbs 4.33 significant strikes a minute. So he lands a little bit more than he gets hit with. But overall, 15 for pound is not bad at all. At number 14, he actually just got a knockout win today against Ikram Aliskerov, and that is Robert Whittaker. I do want to mention the D category in the tier list. All these fighters are good, but this just means, you know, you're not number 1. You're not a street fighter. You don't have crazy forward pressure. You're not a true counter striker, but overall you got good strike. Robert Whittaker, who just is now coming off a great knockout win against Ikram Aliskerov, lands 4.57 significant strikes a minute and absorbs 3.45 significant strikes a minute. So he lands more than he gets hit with. He has a great win over Paulo Costa. And the reason why Whittaker is at number 14 is because of his striking adaptation, right? In the first round against Paulo Costa, he was getting beat up. He got hit with 3 crazy leg kicks, one of them being a spinning back kick or a spinning wheel kick that almost dropped Whittaker. Whittaker got dropped by Dricus du Plessis. So, you know, Whittaker gets hit a lot too. But after the first round, when Whittaker is getting hit a lot, he can change his strike, change how he fights, and is always able to come out and win. If you look at the fight against Darren Till, Jared Cannonier, Paulo Costa, Kevin Gastelum, I mean, there's fights where Robert Whittaker is losing in the first round early on, and he comes back and he wins, and that is why he is at number 14 on this tier list. Now, at number 13, in the top 15 strikers, we have Petr Yan. Now, a lot of people are going to be wondering, why is Petr Yan on this list? You know, he gets hit a lot. He doesn't really have crazy knockout power. It's because of his boxing, his striking accuracy, the amount of strikes he puts out. He is a workhorse, and he's constantly on you, right? He's constantly on you, and he's constantly changing, but he also has great counter striking. Ever watch Petr Yan strike, right? He'll throw like a 1-2-3 blitzing or throw a teep kick. He's blitzing in, lands a lot of punches, and then right before he's about to finish a shot off or he's waiting for something, he's holding up and he's waiting up, and he's got this double glove up, and he's waiting for that right hook or left hook or even countering, moving in a boxing style, right? He's always looking to pivot and feed off of that defense. So that's why Petr Yan is at number 13. Petr Yan lands 5.14 significant strikes a minute and absorbs 4.36 significant strikes a minute. So again, he is someone who lands more than he gets hit with. Petr Yan for sure has great boxing ability, and I think he's, in the contention of best striking just because of his output, his style, and he can always adapt. And for some of those who wants an example, the best fight that Petr Yan has shown his striking in is the Jose Aldo fight and the Cory Sandhagen fight, right? Where in the first round, he's kind of slow and he's reading his opponent, and then rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5, he just absolutely kills people with a calf kick, goes in, throwing the teep, blitzing in, waiting for the counter, and then just kills everybody. The check left hook or right hook. At number 12, we have the one and only Israel Adesanya. Now, Israel Adesanya, the reason why he is lower than what people think, what he should be, is because of his output, right? Israel Adesanya does have good knockout wins, right, over like Paulo Costa. He's got a knockout win over Robert Whittaker, Derek Brunson, Robert Wilkinson. But, Izzy's very slow when it comes to the striking, and that's just how he is, right? He goes for a lot of leg kicks. He's looking at distance, constantly countering. That's his style. He would be higher if his offensive side would be much greater, right? He's not landing that much significant strikes a minute. He's landing 3.93 significant strikes a minute and absorbs 3.11. So he's not really landing as much as the other fighters, but his defense is amazing, right? This is the category. C category is where it's purely counter fighting, counter striking, right? Where their counter striking is almost as good as their offensive side or better, right? That's why Israel Adesanya is at number 12. And another champion who's following Israel Adesanya at number 11, who has great counter striking, great kickboxing, that is Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is he's in the same situation as Israel Adesanya. Great counter, right? He can knock out people, Kamaru Usman, right? But he's really there just keeping people at distance, breaking them down, throwing a 1-2 leg kick, a 1-2 body shot, 1-2 body kick, right? He's very fluent. He's at a pace, right, where he never explodes. He never blitzes in a fight. He's always at this small, subtle pace where if you're not paying attention, if you don't get, if you get caught up in Leon Edwards' pace, you'll get beat up the entire round, right? And a great example of this is the Colby Covington fight, right? Colby Covington literally didn't do anything all 5 rounds. Leon Edwards was at a subtle pace, just leg kicking, get up against the fence, 1-2, 1-2, go to the body, leg kick. He's at this pace the entire time. He's not trying to build up for a knockout. He's not going to blitz you in the early rounds to try and finish you off, and then he's slow in the later rounds. He's at a small pace, and he's just building up the entire. Leon Edwards, great kickboxer, and we'll see how he does against Bilal Muhammad coming up. Coming up at number 10, I think, Michael Venom Page. I know this is controversial because he's only got 1 fight so far in the UFC, but overall, if you look at Michael Venom Page's record and if you look at the fights, he does have great knockout wins, great wins in general. You could argue that was in Bellator, so it's not going to be as good. I put him at number 10 because of the 1 fight against Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland, great striker. He has great jiu-jitsu, but Kevin Holland does have knockout power. Kevin Holland, who is a natural middleweight, fighting Michael Venom Page at welterweight, he has the size and the strength. You would think Kevin Holland would do more than he did, but he couldn't. Michael Venom Page's striking is just so fluent. His karate is insane, right? He's keeping you at range, and then the moment he feels like you're close, flying knee, kick to the body, elbow. His versatile striking is so insane. He's got so many weapons, and that's why Michael Venom Page, pound for pound, is in top 10 for me, right? Michael Venom Page at any weight, right, pound for pound, against any fighter, is going to be a threat on the feet. Now, his grappling is sus, but pure striking, right, when you look at the range, the knockout power, the vast amount of strikes he has or the weapons he has in his arsenal, it's insane, right? His counter striking is great. His offensive fighting, right, he's pushing the pace, throwing the leg kicks, flying knees, spinning elbows. It's amazing. Top 10 in my opinion. He lands 3.14 significant strikes a minute and only absorbs 1.60 significant strikes a minute. So he's barely getting hit. That's the thing about Michael Venom Page, right? He's barely getting hit. It's the same thing with Israel Adesanya. That's why it seems like they're not in fun fights. They're not getting hit. So, it's going to look like they're not doing much, but they are. They're keeping a fighter away from them with distance, with power, with the amount of weapons that they have, right? You don't want to step in against Michael Venom Page, try and take him down, and then get caught with a flying knee or an elbow. That's why he's at number 10. At number 9, this might be a little too early to put him here, but I like it. Number 9, we have Jack Della Maddalena in the welterweight division. Jack Della Maddalena is coming off that great win against Gilbert Burns where he knocked him out. I think Jack Della Maddalena, there's not a lot to pay attention to right now because of his 2 split decision wins against Kevin Holland and then Basil Chavez. But you see the potential. You see his striking, though, as it is right now. His boxing is so clean, and he's able to constantly put that pressure on people, have the knockout power, right? Knocking out Gilbert Burns, that's an impressive win, and constantly keep the pace on his opponent. Jack Della Maddalena lands 6.74 significant strikes a minute, which is insane to say, landing 6.74 significant strikes a minute in the welterweight division, right? That's a lot of strikes he's putting out and absorbing 4.27 significant strikes a minute. So Jack Della Maddalena is putting a lot out, but he's also getting hit with. But what he's putting out is way more, and it's way more dangerous than what is coming at him, right? Jack Della Maddalena, his boxing, his inside movement is amazing. He's crisp, throwing the hooks and the uppercuts. He's really good at throwing the leg kicks, throwing the teep kick or a calf kick, pushing his opponent back, then circling in, throwing the overhand rights, boxing, going the 1-2, slipping, throwing the 1-2 body shots, the hooks to the body. Jack Della Maddalena, I promise you now, when you look at his pure striking, it is solid. If you go back and watch the Randy Brown fight when he submitted him, before he submitted him, he was piecing him up on the feet, and Randy Brown's reach is insane. And the fact that Jack Della Maddalena used his jab to the body, cut down, was slipping so good that the reach from Randy Brown wasn't even touching Jack Della Maddalena, and he ends up submitting him, right? But his boxing is what got him there, and that's why I have him at number 9 in the top 10. At number 8, we have former champion, and this guy is a bit of a boring striker, but it's effective, it's clean, and it's super strange, but it fits his style, and that is Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland in the middleweight division, nobody can figure him out. He has this weird Philly shell with the racing teep kick, right? So everybody knows. Sean Strickland, his cardio is insane, right? All he does is spar. His pace is insane. If you go back and watch the Israel Adesanya fight, the greatest performance from Sean Strickland ever, right? Drops Israel Adesanya in the first round from a 1-2. That's how you know how good a striker is. If a striker can march down his opponent, constantly throw the teep kick, right? Have the opponent feel like, okay, he's going to throw a body kick at some point. Raise up the leg, raise up the fucking knee to think you're going to throw a teep kick, and then literally just throw a 1-2 and drop you. Right? That's how good Sean Strickland is. That's why he's at number 8. Sean Strickland lands 6.01 significant strikes a minute and absorbs 3.44. Sean Strickland, he is a very strange fighter. His beliefs are, kind of crazy, but it makes him interesting. As a pure stand-up fighter, Sean Strickland is easily pound for pound top 10 in the UFC. There's no doubt about that. He's been knocked out at one time against Alex Pereira, which was pretty insane. It's insane that Strickland even, left himself open like that. But, that is, it just shows you how good Sean Strickland is, right? Easily one of the more interesting strikers when it comes to styles makes fights, but definitely top 10. At number 7, we have another former champion, and it breaks my heart that he's this low. He would have been higher if he didn't get knocked out, but we have the one and only Alex Volkanovski. Alex Volkanovski lands 6.16 significant strikes a minute, absorbs 3.44. Great champion. He's a great fighter, great striker, but overall his striking is top 10. His feint work is amazing. His ability to adapt throughout a fight. If you go back and watch the Max Holloway fights with Volkanovski, every round, right? Max Holloway's changing something, Volkanovski's changing something, Max Holloway changes something. Volkanovski's ability to change and adapt throughout the fight is what makes him such a good striker. And him being a shorter guy having feint work, it's scary, right? Because you're going to get someone who is closing the gap on you just from feint work, right? He doesn't have an insane reach where it's keeping you away from the jab. It's his feint work because Volkanovski does have power. right? If you go back and watch the Yair Rodriguez fight, if you go back and watch the Max Holloway fight and look at the damage that was brought on to him in that fight, the Korean Zombie fight, Alex Volkanovski has power. And if you are not careful, he will drop you and, finish you off. Volkanovski, top 10 fighter. In my opinion, he's number 7, but you could argue he's top 5. At number 6, we have Cory Sandhagen in the bantamweight division. Cory Sandhagen, everybody knows he's a great striker. He has a insane amount of weapons, flying knees, spinning elbows. He has a pretty good reach for the bantamweight division, right? I mean, he's like 5'11" or 6 foot, crazy. If you go back and watch Cory Sandhagen fight Rob Font, Marlon Vera, in his last 2 fights, he did use more wrestling, but the striking was still great, right? He's still keeping opponents off of him with the reach and the threat of the flying knee and the elbows. But the best performance in the striking department for me with Cory Sandhagen, even though he lost the fight, was TJ Dillashaw and the Song Yadong fight. You just see Cory Sandhagen, right? He's eating a lot of shots and he's just putting out so much, right? His jab, his right hand, it's just too much. And when Cory Sandhagen is constantly switching kicks, switching stances, it's going to make your brain confused, right? Cory Sandhagen is constant. He'll be left foot forward, throwing the jab, 1-2, throw a high kick, then he switches back, putting that left foot back. Now he's in southpaw, reaching, throwing that right hand. Then he's looking for a flying knee. The fact that Cory Sandhagen has all these weapons and he's constantly moving in a fight and he's guessing with a finger. He's making you guess. He'll go up high, go low, and then he's looking for the body. Cory Sandhagen, without a doubt, top 10 UFC striker, pound for pound in the UFC. He lands 5.33 significant strikes a minute and only absorbs 3.40. Not really getting hit that much. Great striker, has a lot of weapons, and he's personally one of my favorite fighters to watch in the UFC. At number 5, we have another featherweight fighter, Yair Rodriguez. Now, many people are going to be wondering, why is Yair above Alex Volkanovski when Alex Volkanovski was piecing Yair up in the fight in the 3rd round? Because in the beginning rounds, 1 through 3, Yair was landing a good amount of strikes on Volkanovski and piecing him up. But it's not just that one fight. Yair, in my opinion, is so versatile, right? He has so many weapons. The last second knockout win over the Korean Zombie. The first fight with Josh Emmett where he's kind of getting him pieced up on the feet, then submits him. Yair has so many weapons, right? And the fight with Max Holloway, even though he lost that fight, very close fight, piecing up Max Holloway. His leg kicks are insane. Yair's kicks are just insane. He's constantly switching the stance, throwing the 1-2. Very versatile. He's like Cory Sandhagen, but in the featherweight division, right? He has so many weapons, and you really don't know what he's going to throw, and he has insane power, right? And he's fast. Yair, in my opinion, is top 3 deadliest strikers in the featherweight division, but top 5 in the UFC pound for pound. I think just his striking ability, what he has for weapons, is quite insane, and I think personally he is one of the best strikers in the UFC. At number 4, we have the champion, Ilia Topuria. Everybody knows Ilia Topuria. His boxing, his counter fighting is amazing. He just puts a pace on people. You can't stop him. The power is insane. The fact that he knocked out Volkanovski, just marching him down. You could say, well, Volkanovski, he got knocked out by Islam. His brain was already, fogged up. He was going to get knocked out. No. Ilia Topuria is that man. Not only is his boxing crisp, and he started in MMA off jiu-jitsu. And he's just leveled up his striking. His power is insane. His counter striking, his timing is insane. Right, his ability to hold you down. But Ilia Topuria is super good at pushing you back and intercepting what you're throwing right there. If you go back and watch the Jai Herbert knockout, a fighter who was a weight class above him, he literally got knocked down in the 1st round. Came back in the 2nd round, was throwing a 1-2 to the body, to the head, to the body. Marches Jai Herbert back, throws the overhand right, and drops Jai Herbert from a counter shot. Like Ilia Topuria's ability to find the tiniest mistakes, intercept what you're about to throw, and counter hit you is just what makes him so good. And one thing I like about Ilia Topuria is his patience, right? If you go back and watch that Volkanovski fight, until he knocked him out, he was just waiting the entire time. Just waiting, just slowly moving forward, just reading the speed, reading the timing, and just slowly marching down Volkanovski. And then in the 2nd round, knocks him out. I mean, Ilia Topuria is a scary dude, and what makes him even more scarier is his threat of grappling, and that's what makes his striking look so good, because you don't want to get in a scramble match with Ilia Topuria, right? If you go back and look at the Bryce Mitchell fight, I mean, he got messed up, but the striking just beat up Bryce Mitchell. He beat up Josh Emmett for 5 rounds on the feet. Josh Emmett is an amazing counter striker, heavy hands, and Ilia Topuria for 5 rounds he just dehumanized him. He broke him down as a man, and he couldn't do nothing. Just constantly beating him up. Leg kicks after a while, just body kicks, overhands. Ilia Topuria, top 5. Number 4. At number 3, we have the one and only Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley, great striking, switch stance fighter, can fight, southpaw, orthodox, has the reach. His counter striking is amazing. Go back and watch the Aljamain Sterling knockout. Aljamain Sterling's going for the takedown, couldn't get it, gets knocked out. Then he fights Marlon Vera, throws the knee up the middle. Somehow Marlon Vera stays up. He doesn't get knocked out. And literally for 5 rounds, Marlon Vera just getting pieced up by Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley, insane power, insane striking. And you could just tell each fight, Sean O'Malley is getting tougher, faster, and better. If you go back and look at the knockout against Thomas Almeida, it was good, but it was like, okay, what's going on, right? Like, he's got knockout power, but is he really that good? And then you go back and watch the Aljamain Sterling knockout, and you're just like, okay, yeah, Sean O'Malley's leveled up, right? And his earlier fights, you saw he had power and, he's flashy, but like when he fights against someone who's a champion or number 1 contender, is he actually that good? And he is. He's just leveled up. He's gotten better. He's faster, more mature as a fighter. His striking is amazing. He has a ton of weapons, and I would like to see Sean O'Malley come out in his next fight against Merab in another flashy knockout, flying knee, spinning wheel kick, something insane to remind people why he is the bantamweight champion. Great fighter. At number 2, we have Max Holloway. Max Holloway coming off a great knockout win against Justin Gaethje in the final seconds at UFC 300. The reason why Max Holloway is here is because of his striking output, his boxing style, and the people that he has just put away or just ultimately beat down in his career, right? Max Holloway lands 7.17 significant strikes a minute and absorbs 4.72. He's landing a ton of significant strikes a minute. And when he is fighting these people, he is just breaking them down. If you go back and watch the Justin Gaethje fight for 5 rounds, everybody counted out Max Holloway. I did. And he comes out and just beats up Justin Gaethje, throwing, the spinning back kicks, the 1-2 boxing, just getting in and out. His counter fighting is amazing. His pure boxing skill, his true boxing is amazing. His ability to slip, roll, and constantly pivot and counter, and is going back and forth with his opponents is amazing. His best boxing skill, his show-off case win, was against Calvin Kattar, right? For 5 rounds, he's just beating up Calvin Kattar, and then he beats up Yair Rodriguez, and then he kind of shows off in the Korean Zombie fight and in the Justin Gaethje fight in his back-to-back wins where, he is tough. Like, you might be able to hit Max Holloway 1 or 2 good times, but he's standing right there in the pocket and giving back what he just got, right? And he thumps a little bit better, a little bit faster. And you could argue he is the number 1 best, striker in the featherweight division. He's above Ilia Topuria. He's above Yair Rodriguez. He's above Volkanovski. And if you look at this list, there's a ton of featherweights on here, and that's just, I think, the best division with the best strikers in the UFC. And finally, the moment we've all been waiting for, number 1, best striker in the UFC. It's pretty obvious. Alex Pereira. It is almost insane to think about that Alex Pereira has had the career he has had since joining the UFC. He's got a ton of knockout wins. He's knocked out almost every single person he's fought in the UFC except for 3 people, I think. He didn't knock out Jan Blachowicz, didn't knock out Bruno Silva, and yeah, and he lost by knockout to Israel Adesanya. But other than that, Alex Pereira, his pure striking is insane, right? Obviously, he has the power. His kickboxing technique is insane. He's just keeping his hands down low, throwing that left hook, throwing the calf kick, and how he throws his calf kick is insane too. He's not turning his hip over. He's not putting a lot of power into it. He's just flicking his ankle out there and just breaking down his opponent. His ability to walk down his opponent, eat a shot, and just unload is insane, right? The fact that he was able to knock out Jamal Hill in round 1, insane at UFC 300. The fact that he came back in the second round after getting hit a good amount against Yair Rodriguez and knock him out. The fact that in the first Israel Adesanya fight, he goes 5 rounds, getting beat up. He's clearly going to lose the fight. And then in the 5th round, knocks out Israel Adesanya, knocks out Sean Strickland. You cannot pause or wait for 1 second against Alex Pereira. He's the best striker in the UFC, arguably GOAT status right now. If he beats somehow Yair Rodriguez again and then goes up to heavyweight, we might really be talking about one of the greatest fighters of all time in the UFC. And that's crazy to say because he's only fought 9 or 10 times in the UFC. Alex Pereira, his striking is undeniable. That's the greatest game you could ever have for anybody. His striking is A++. He is what you would want your power to be, your blocking to be, your striking movement. His reach is insane. He is the Mount Rushmore of striking. And the strikers that he has fought, the fact that he's knocked them out shows you how good he is, right? Sean Strickland, pure striker, knocks him out. Knocks out Israel Adesanya, pure striker. Knocks out Yair Rodriguez, pure striker. Knocks out Jamal Hill, who's also a pure striker, a heavy boxer, knocks him out. So it's not like he's knocking out these grapplers that are leaving their hands low going for a takedown. No, he's knocking out these strikers on the feet just because he's better. He moves better. He beats them on the counter. He outsmarts them. He just breaks them down, and that's why he is the #1 UFC striker right now. Pound for pound, the #1 guy. That was my list for the top 15 UFC strikers. I hope you enjoyed. I know it's a super long video, but I tried breaking them down as best I could. Some notable mentions I would like to say in this video, I didn't really want to get into it all, is Justin Gaethje, Rafael Fiziev, Ian Gary, Khalil Roundtree, and one honorable mention, Chris Moutinho. This guy lasted, multiple rounds against Sean O'Malley. He's got to mean something in the striking department, eating that many shots. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you in the next video.